for them. So I suppose we could probably start, and as more doorbells ring, we will let them all in, obviously, because we are good hosts and all of that. We're going to actually start with 2 questions for you all, but we're going to do one at a time. First of all, hi, in case you can't find me, here's the one waving. That's the one talking. I know we now have multiple screens probably going. So my name is Pam Barkley from Moving Traditions, and I am joined here by several of my colleagues who will be helping facilitate various portions of this. So we have Sarah Fox, who's the one you received the emails from. Wave, Sarah, thank you. As well as Jen Analik. I don't know where she is on your screen, and Rabbi Daniel Brenner. So we will all be doing different things today. And first and foremost, to get us started, like I said, I'm going to ask you all to answer a question in an answer garden. If you've never used Answer Garden, consider this our gift to you for the day. It is something that is easily used on a Zoom platform. It's external to Zoom. So there's a link that's been posted by Jen in the chat. I'm going to ask you all to go to that link and answer the question you see, and then we will share our screen and show you what everyone's answers were, but you're going to answer it from the link, not from where we share our screen. So just take a look at that link. For those of you who aren't on video, if you want to, I guess you probably can see us even if we can't see you, is my assumption. So you can still participate, although we would love to see you too as well. So if you're comfortable and want to turn on your screen, that would be great. So go to the Answer Garden and answer the question you see there. And then Jen's going to sort of monitor that. And when we have enough, I don't know what enough's going to be, we're gonna share the answer to it. The question there is, during this pandemic, our home is way more ... So during this pandemic, our home is way more what? Anything goes, fill in the blank. You should be able, if you can't click on the link, then you can certainly cut and paste it into a browser window, into a separate window. Belinda just asked that.
Yeah, Zoom unfortunately doesn't format these as links. We wish that they did.
Yes, it would make life easier. But then I think they're worried people won't be able to navigate back to the Zoom page. Mm-hmm. Part of the issue. So like another 10 seconds, and then maybe, Jen, you want to share the magical answers? To our first question, during the pandemic, our home is way more.
No, refresh it one more time.
Join the meeting.
Crowded, chaotic, disorganized, messy, and yet also sanctuary. Interesting, right? Clean and organized. A lot of opposites on that page. Disorganized and organized. Chaotic and quiet. Dirty and messy, and also clean. Interesting. So different experiences going on in the home right now. Everyone's experience is their own, totally cool. And now we have a second Answer Garden question for you to answer. We're going to post another link, which is, during this pandemic, one thing our family has done together is. During this pandemic, one thing our family has done together. And again, either cut and paste the link into your browser, and you're going to answer that question, and then we will share all the answers with you the same way we did. And again, if you're not on video, you can still participate in this by cutting and pasting the link, and hopefully you're still seeing us even if we're not seeing you. All right, do we have a bunch of answers in there, Jen, to share?
We do. I'm
All
gonna share
righty.
my screen again.
So during this pandemic, one thing our family has done together is bake. I see a lot of photos on Facebook of different magnificent things people have been baking. Challah seems to be very popular in the Jewish educator environment. Going on walks, video chats, cooking meals, yeah. Puzzles. You like can't get puzzles anymore.
Doesn't make any sense. Do you know what it says?
What?
Add blocks.
Work and school. Our family's done together is work and school. Disinfecting. Yeah, I suppose we've done a lot of disinfecting. Laughing, walking, a daily gratitude talk. How lovely. Playing games. So you see the varieties of kinds of answers. So letting you know that for this webinar, our plan is to take you through the basic steps of the new session we've created called How to Connect When You're Never Apart. And instead of just telling you about the activities, we're going to have you actually do them, with the idea that experiencing things is really a great way to embody the learning. And we will have some time to talk about logistics. We will pull out sometimes and give you some of those facilitator tips, but then go back into the actual experience of the program so that you all can feel comfortable going to run these programs, hopefully yourselves, for the parents and teens in your communities. And our idea of the session was that we want to help parents and their kids have actual conversations. Everyone's in their house together, but they're not necessarily having conversations. They may even not even being in the same room. They may be on different rooms on their own screens, or in the same room but on separate screens. And so what the Moving Traditions B'nai Mitzvah program has done for parents and kids, we felt, was help them have important conversations, and now is no different. We think that there's, even though they're all spending a lot of time together, this is an opportunity to have a meaningful moment of conversation about something that's affecting, obviously, everyone in their household. And it will follow the same format as, for those of you familiar with our B'nai Mitzvah sessions, family sessions, where we have parents and kids together, parents and kids separated, and then they come back together. However, unlike our B'nai Mitzvah family sessions, where we say, obviously, most people are doing them for 6th graders or 7th graders, clearly this is something that you could do with really any age teenager. I was speaking with a partner at one point who said they may run this as a whole high school program for all the teens and parents in their program. Great. Some people may want to run it for 1 grade at a time. Depends on the size of your school, depends on your comfort level, depends on your bandwidth, all of that, totally fine. We'd love just to hear about what it is you do. And one other note before we get started, which is that we are aware that when, even in that opening question that we say with your family, and we're going to be referring to, how do you feel as a parent? How do you feel to, talk to your teen? We are aware that not everyone in this particular Zoom room is a parent or has a child. Absolutely. Obviously, this session is written for people who are parents and kids together. So some of that language is going to seep in. Where we could, for this webinar, we changed some of the language. We say parent, child, someone you love. But we ask for your indulgence in understanding that we know that not everyone here is a parent, but that's how we're going to speak to help you have the most experience in leading this actual session, so you see what it is like. And when you're asked a question about your parent or child, to think about someone you love, or maybe your own relationship with your parent, however that works for you. So that sound all right to everybody? Thumbs up? All right. So let's get started. So we actually started already, because those opening questions are part of the actual session, the answer garden. So congratulations, you've already done the very first activity. And what I'm going to ask you to do now is to take a look at this and take out a piece of paper. A scrap piece. It could be a Post-it, it could be the back of something, anything you want. And I want you, this is just for yourselves right now, to answer these questions. When I want to show my parents, children, someone you love, that you appreciate them, what do you usually do? I usually what? And then I feel most loved by parent, child, someone I love, when they do what? What is it that makes you feel that?
We will be sharing these slides as part of the session, so you'll have these.
Yes.
Thanks, Robin, for that question.
So I want to say that everyone has preferences in terms of how they show their love and how they experience and feel love and want to feel love, and however you feel is okay, right? That's just your preference, and that's totally fine. During this time period, during the pandemic, your preferences are likely a little heightened, the way everything is kind of heightened, and that's just something to be aware of. That's totally normal, and it's just something to note as you move forward, that how you usually want to show love and experience love is likely a little higher. You're keeping those papers for yourself for the moment, and I'm going to turn this over to Jen.
Thanks, Pam. So I'm going to continue by telling everybody a story. So Lily and her mom, Rachel, were in the kitchen after dinner, and Lily was telling her mom all about a conversation she recently had with her best friend. Lily loves spending time with her mom and specifically chose to stick around in the kitchen to talk after dinner while the rest of the family went upstairs to their rooms. However, she noticed her mom was distracted as she talked. While Rachel listened, she was washing the dishes from dinner and wiping down the countertops. She enjoys talking to her daughter, but was also frustrated at Lily for sitting at the kitchen counter and not once offering to help with the cleaning. At the end of the night, both Lily and Rachel felt annoyed. So after hearing this story, what are some things that you noticed? What are things that stood out to you? Feel free to unmute.
How one of the options on the table was to share with one another each of their needs, right? Lily wanting the need to just be around her mom, and the mom wanting her to help, and that they didn't use words to communicate their needs, even though they had, like, you know, justified reasons for wanting to stay together.
That's great. So lots of assumptions.
There are some comments coming in by the chat too.
Yeah, no needs expressed out loud. Each one made assumptions but didn't communicate. These are great. And what do you think Lily was thinking? Lily is the one who's the daughter in the scenario.
Doesn't really care about me and what's happening in my life.
Yeah. And how about Rachel, the mother?
As a person who likes to have conversations while I'm cleaning, I like, you know, I've got to say, it's de-stressing me to clean and I can talk at the same time. I really can. Sometimes I'm wrong.
Master of multitasking. I like it. There's some great comments that are coming in the chat too. So Lily might have wanted mom's full attention. She wanted to share and have her mother listen. And yeah, each person was focused on their own needs. These are great. Nice. And figuring out, like, when is it time to drop tasks and fully listen. Awesome. So I'm gonna break the fourth wall for a second and note that, so we heard a couple of people talk out loud, and we're seeing a lot of people writing in the chat, and that is totally normal for Zoom. It's really difficult for a group this large, honestly, for even a group that's larger than like 15 people, to feel comfortable talking. And sometimes even like a group of 9 people can like sometimes not really know when like, oh, am I talking over somebody? So when you're facilitating a large group, I'd recommend giving the option to either talk out loud or write into the chat, and make sure as a facilitator that you're monitoring the chat, because you'll be getting really great answers in both media. So going right back in. So the story that we just heard, it might seem like one of these classic examples of how teens and parents don't get each other, or like miscommunications. It's also an example, what happened between these two people is an example of two people speaking different languages. So that doesn't mean one speaking Spanish and one speaking Hebrew. They were speaking what psychologist Gary Chapman calls love languages, which you might have heard of before. And each of us has a primary love language, which is a way that we receive affection that makes us feel truly loved and appreciated. And we oftentimes show love in that same way that we feel loved and appreciated. So when you think back about Rachel and Lily, what do you think, what's a way that Lily, the daughter, communicates her love to her mother?
Sharing her day and what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, through talking, through having a conversation. Nice.
And physically being together.
Yeah. Spending time. How about the other way around? How about her mother? How does she show love?
She's cleaning up after dinner, which she probably feels like somebody needs to do. And so she's doing something that she thinks is helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, I see somebody mentioned acts of service, which is one of the love languages. Already speaking the lingo. Yeah, cooking, cleaning. Great. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna share my screen and we're gonna watch a video about one of the love languages. And one of the most important things to remember, apart from how Pam and I were talking about that we had a million tabs open when we shared our screens and we had to close all of them before we started doing it, is that when you share, there's a little box at the bottom of the window that pops up when you hit share screen. It's at the bottom left and it says share computer sound. This is very, very important when sharing a video, otherwise people don't hear the video. Okay. So here we go. And we're back. So this was a video about the love language that's called gifts. And we're gonna, after we break into breakout groups in a moment, we're gonna talk a little bit more about the rest of the love languages. But I'll note that one of the things you saw in the video was another example of two people who at first were speaking different love languages. And then by the end of the video, you saw a shift happen. So I invite you to keep that shift in mind. And now I'm gonna invite Sarah to break us into our different breakout rooms. Hello. Welcome. I'm about to share a PowerPoint, so I'm just going to get that ready. And I think this is probably all of us, but there might be a couple more people who are joining. I like the backgrounds. I'd like to be at the beach too. Okay. So could I get a volunteer? Actually, you know what? First, I'm going to. Sometimes the Zoom controls get in the way of the slideshow controls, so that's what you see me moving around. So I'm gonna make this bigger. There we go. So could I have a volunteer to read the first of the love languages words?
I'll do it.
Great, thank you.
Number 1, words. People who speak this love language feel loved when others speak intentionally and sincere words, complimenting and encouraging them.
Nice, thank you. How about somebody to read acts of service?
I'll do it. Acts of service. People who speak this love language feel loved when others do something that is kind, intentional, and unexpected that helps them.
Thank you. Have somebody read gifts.
Sure. Gifts. People who speak this love language feel loved when others give them a gift that is personal and thoughtful.
Thank you. And then quality time.
Quality time. People who speak this love language feel loved when others intentionally and deliberately spend time with them.
Thank you. And then one more person to read touch.
Sure, I'll read touch. People who speak this love language feel loved through meaningful physical contact.
Thank you. Okay, so we have these 5 love languages. So words, acts of service, gifts, quality time, and touch. When you think back to the story that I told at the beginning with Lily and Rachel, which one of these do you think each of them speak?
I think Lily speaks the quality time.
Mm-hmm.
The mom is more like acts of service, I think, was the mom.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like they're both expressing their love and they're both frustrated. And then how about in the video? So we knew it was about gifts, but what was the other character trying to express? Which language?
Acts of service.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like coming in, vacuuming, doing all that stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm gonna stop sharing. So at this point, I'll ask you to take a quick look at the sheet of paper that you wrote your answers on at the beginning of our meeting, and notice which love languages what you wrote falls into. It might be more than one. Some of us speak more than one love language. And if any of you would like to share, you do not have to, but if you'd like to.
I definitely fall under the acts of service. So when I'm showing someone that I care, I tend to like clean up around, organize, like try and make the space around them like less visually cluttered, to maybe help their like mental and physical state if like that's how they're feeling. I'm not sure which like my love language would fall under, because I realize that it's really helpful when like my partner gives me things that I didn't know I needed, like a hug or a cup of water, or like puts out my computer in the morning, which is really sweet. So I'm not sure exactly what that would fall under because I wouldn't consider it gifts. So
yeah, that's a great point. I think some of them overlap a bit. And sometimes gifts gets kind of a bad rap. Like people think, oh, I don't want to have the love language gifts because like that means I'm materialistic. But gifts, like it has like a big, like a gift, gifts and acts of service I think overlap the most, because like, is a cup of coffee that somebody hands you a gift, or is it an act of service? It's like kind of a little bit of both.
Yeah.
For me, it was the first question was I like to cook something for someone, so I guess that would be an act of service. But then the second question, it was definitely oh, I can't remember what they're called, but the one where they spend quality time.
Oh yeah, quality time.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw, but I added in the chat, I just had a question about putting the 5, leaving either 5 on the screen because it's hard to remember what they are, or having, after you showed the 1 through 3 and then the 4 and 5, having one way to look at all of them. I couldn't remember the names of them.
Yeah, so what I'm gonna do, that's why this webinar is really helpful for us, along with for you, because we get to learn all these things. So I'm actually gonna paste all of them into the chat so you can see them. So words, acts of service, gifts, quality time, touch. And what we would do, we're not gonna do today because we're spending some of the webinar explaining why we're doing things and kind of giving you the back end look, is we would ask in the breakout rooms, we'd have the parents and kids separated. And in each group, we would have them take a quiz so they could learn a little bit more about their own love language. So they did that reflection at the beginning, and then they would answer some more questions to learn their language. I'm gonna share my screen quickly to show you what that quiz looks like. I'm not gonna have you take it, and it'll be linked in the curriculum that we send to you afterward. But you'll see there's different questions, and each of the answers here links to, it connects to one of the love languages. So what you do is give everybody, I think we said about 10 minutes to take the quiz, and then you'd come back together and go over the answers, and then have a little discussion.
Can you raise number 1? Oh,
sorry, I can share it again. Yeah. So this is just to give you a quick look at what the quiz looks like, and I'll invite you to take it up on your own. It's pretty fun to do the self-reflection, even if, yeah. Rabbi David, it looks like you have
sorry, you were saying that teens and their adults should be in separate breakout rooms.
Yes.
And that separately everyone's filling out that quiz?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep. And there'll be some instructions at the beginning of the session, but what we recommend is to have parents and teens each, before they join the call, to log in on 2 separate devices. So like the teens device would be in a different room with the sound and the video turned off, and the parents would be logged in. So they'd both join at the same screen at first, and the kids would go to a different room, and then they'd come back together at the end.
You might address this later, so if we put it in the parking lot, that's fine. But I also was wondering, I have used breakout rooms, but I usually just do the random assigning. And so if you at some point have a moment to, on one foot, sort of explain like how much work you're doing in advance or during the meet, how you're sort of setting that up and when.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great question. I recommend, and I think we'll talk about this later, but just in case we don't, One of our partners who piloted this about a week ago, they recommended, and so you'd need to do this manually, and I'd recommend having like somebody who's in charge of tech on the call. It's really hard to wear both hats, to do the tech stuff and to facilitate, so I don't recommend that you do that. And this person said that they asked all the parents to put parent in parentheses next to their name, and that way it's really easy to it's really just like a button that you have to click in breakout groups to move somebody to a breakout room, so that you would just need to move down the list and move everyone that has parent next to their name into one room. And everybody.
That's super helpful.
So
Sure.
was Sarah doing breakout rooms in the beginning, or was that done before the call started?
Sarah created the rooms manually, or sorry, she did them automatically at the beginning of the call once we all logged in. I think there's a way of doing it ahead of time, but I'm pretty sure you need to know the exact name that each person is going to use on the call. So like and I haven't tried that before, so I'm not the complete expert.
There are ways for you to identify yourself even on the screen with your name.
Mm-hmm.
So, you can, change, if your name isn't coming out the way you want it to, we can say parent or teen next to it, even on, I don't know if that helps though, in sorting out the breakout room. I'm not sure. I have a question for you, Jen. I'm a little confused about the together, the separate, the sort of that flow. Maybe you can review that at the end after we go through everything.
Sure, like where to separate and where to come back
Yeah,
to.
where are they together? Where are they on separate screens? Where do they come back? Where do you have the breakouts between teens and parents, if at all?
Sure, yeah, so that's outlined very clearly within the session that we'll be sending. And what you're experiencing right now is almost exact, apart from this discussion about facilitation. You're mostly experiencing with the types of discussions and activities that you would be doing apart and that you'd be doing together. So like we're in the breakout room now as educators, and around the same time throughout the flow of the session, parents and kids would go apart and then come back. But yeah, I'm happy. I think probably after you read through the session, we're totally open to chatting and answering any questions. I think it'll become more clear once you read through it. So we have a few minutes left here. I wanted to give you a little bit of a taste of what each of the groups would do after they took the quiz. So hold on. So I'll share my screen once more. So they would all take the quiz, and here we have the scoring screen. So they'd learn if they selected mostly A's, their primary love language is words and speaking, primarily B's, acts of service, doing, primarily C's, thoughtful, gifts, D's, quality time, E's, physical touch. And one of the things that we emphasize and have in the session is that there's no best love language. Everyone has different preferences. So just like some people are more introverted and some people are more extroverted, and just like some people are raised speaking English and some people are raised speaking Spanish and Hebrew at the same time. Like we each have our preferences and have what we're used to. And sometimes it's important to like stretch and flex our love languages. So for instance, Gary Chapman, who's the person who came up with love languages, he often says, people ask him like, well, what if the person that I love, love language doesn't come naturally to me? And his go-to answer is always so. Like he says, like, love is an action. It's a choice that you make. It's not something that just happens. It's something that you choose to do for somebody else. And there's this teaching in Judaism that we have also in the session, that we're commanded to love. Specifically in the Shema, we say "Yahavta et Adonai Elohecha," which translates to "and thou shalt love the Lord your God." In this instance, we're clearly being commanded to love God, but if we kind of like widen the lens a little bit and think of this as like a commandment to love, and that we're obligated to love, we might consider the question like, so how do we fulfill that obligation? And it's the idea behind love languages is that we can't just express our love in the way that we want to be loved. A lot of the times we need to flex and we need to love other people in the way that they want to be loved, which is something that like, it's just like building a muscle, like something to become more comfortable with, and that can potentially improve our relationships. So we're going to move back into the larger group. And at this point, parents and kids would be coming together and would be invited to share their love languages with each other and have a conversation off screen. So I'll see you on the other side.
Welcome back, everybody. Okay, so as I said in my group, I'm not sure if everyone said in their groups that we're doing this in a little bit of a different order than the actual session happens, because we wanted to do that piece in smaller groups, and in the real session, you would be having parents in one breakout room and teens in another breakout room. I'm going to pull out completely from running the session to let you know that once everyone took the love language quiz, parents in one room and kids in another, and you talked about it as you just did, you would then have the parents and kids come back together and share their love languages with one another. And hold on, just going to share my screen, and you would put up this set of questions on the PowerPoint, and you could ask the parents and kids to mute, and which all these instructions are written, and they would have a conversation about this. This is for the parent and child, right? We want them to have these conversations with one another. That is what this whole session is seeking to do, and talk about what surprised them or what they learned, what they might think about doing differently over the next day, week, whatever, hour, and to explain to both the parents and the kids together that sometimes, you know, going out of your way for someone isn't easy. And it is also important to remember that you all have your own boundaries. Every person has their own things that are boundaries, and those need to be respected. Also, sometimes we need a hug, sometimes we need to be alone, sometimes we need to walk out of the room, sometimes we need to come back. All of those things, especially again during this sort of closed quarters time, is really something to pay attention to. Your own boundaries are something to pay attention to, and they're important to pay attention to where your own body is at. And I'm just seeing, can you just how technically creating breakout rooms as well, we can help you with that. We're not going to pause to do that right this second, but I am happy to help you with the breakout rooms. Do try the Zoom tutorial, but certainly contact us and we can help you. They're pretty easy. Breakout rooms are phenomenal because it allows for smaller group conversations. You can already see, right, everyone put their video on again when we were in those breakout rooms, right? It creates a different sort of sense of intimacy. Again, noting a note about the session itself, which is that you need more than one facilitator. You need one for the teen breakout room, one for the parent breakout room. Just know that for yourselves. If you are one of the our Moving Traditions partners, we are going to try and help you lead these sessions if you need us to. So at the end of this whole hour together, there will be a survey that asks these questions, and it's where you can ask ask us for help in leading an actual session. And so, you know, you'll fill that out at that point. The other thing is that on our website, I'm just going to sort of quickly show this because I want you to know it's there. Maybe. Of course, it's not the last thing on, because that's life. So I prepared it, but then I went to another screen and you see how that is. So this session, which I think some of you have already found because I know people have emailed me about it, is on our website, and it is not in the password protected section. It's just the COVID resources section, which I'm now sharing, COVID-19. Here's the session. And what I want to draw your attention to is not only is everything we just said written out here, but we even have a sample email invitation text that, so you can cut and paste this, that gives the parents the instructions about joining the Zoom call, about the fact that they're going to be separated, so there need to be 2 devices, how to handle those 2 devices, because you don't want those 2 devices in the same room. It creates a screeching sound, and how to do all this. So there's a sample email, the supply list, including the links to Answer Garden, the link to the video you just saw, all of those kinds of things. It is all here written for you. You all can get this right this very second. It's on our website. So just wanted to let you know that. I'm going to stop sharing so we can see more people and I can see the chat better. If teams with both parents or more than one teen in the family wants to participate, they each need their own device. So parents could be on one device, because I would imagine that parents would want to be talking to their teen together, but they should probably take the quiz separately because they're different people. So they should each take the quiz by themselves, and then when they get to talk to their teen, and yes, I see Jen answered the question, the parents and teens will talk to face after the breakout session. So they'll do the love language quiz, they'll each have their own conversations, and then you're putting the parents and teens together. With the parents, there's a few more tips we give parents about how to talk to their teens, but you will give them those instructions, and then they're going to have a short conversation with their teens about what they discovered on both sides, right? Because parents certainly have the wisdom and the experience, hopefully, of being grown-ups that might be able to give them a little bit more of the ability to flex, but it's also important that they state their needs as well. No question. I see Ben Goldberg has raised his hand. Tell us, Ben.
Oh, just as you know, Pam, but for everyone else, we recently adapted one of the B'nai Mitzvah curriculum sessions in Zoom, where we actually, and if you're skeptical, it actually did work, to have the parents and kids on separate devices and then do part separately in different rooms, and then for them to come together and talk in person. I was skeptical that would actually work, and it did. So you can do this.
Didn't plant him even. Thank you. I didn't plant him. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, it really does work. It takes some planning, but we've actually planned it for you. We've already told you, like, all the instructions are already on the list. All the instructions that sort of we created in our heads, and that I then reviewed with Rabbi Ben there in the corner, are now on this actual session. So no worries at all. Ben,
the one thing with the tech is that on everything that you do, to the extent possible, to have redundancy. So for instance, to both share a link to that Google document and also display it on the screen. And just like build in some redundancies in as much as you can, because people have varying levels of familiarity with the technology and so forth.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you want to talk about which session you adapted? There was a question in the chat.
It was the, what was it, Pam? It was the Why Am I Doing This session, which we did not all of or most of, yeah.
For any of you who are wondering about doing B'nai Mitzvah sessions, I see the question is coming from Amy. I personally have been meeting with individual partners to go over sessions and figure out how to move these into an online environment right here, right now. I've done this with a bunch of the sessions. If I haven't done it with the particular session you want to run, it doesn't matter. We will do it together. Not a big deal. Please, please reach out to me and I will help you run this. We want you to be able to run these sessions, not just because we want you to be running our sessions, but really because we believe that this material is so important, especially now for parents and kids, to be having a time for meaningful conversation, not just screens next to each other. So we really want you to be able to run our material with whatever group it is you want to run.
I want to add that there was another question from Judith about making sense. Does it make sense to email the quiz in case there's a limit, I think is what the word is supposed to be, on available screens?
So,
and then and one more thing, in follow-up to what you just said about the B'nai Mitzvah program, we're also happy to do that with you if you have any teen programs in your teen groups that you want to move online. We're more than happy to work with you to do that.
Yes. Absolutely. And the answer, which Ben already gave, is the redundancy. You want to send it 6 times in 6 different ways to people? Absolutely, right? If you're worried about screens and you think that's a good way to do it, absolutely share the link ahead of time and let them, you know, that email I sent you, let them log on through the link to the quiz. Totally fine. If you feel like that would be helpful. The other thing is, it is easier for people if they're on a computer. iPad is second choice, phone is last choice. I know it's most kids' first choice, but because of the functionality of phones, they don't get to see as many boxes as you will know on a Zoom screen. So it's less of a feeling of connection, and there's some other issues around it. So we, you know, just want to share with you that that might be something you want to say to people as well, to try and share, to try and be on a computer. Happy to answer more questions if you have them, to put them in the chat, but I want to make sure we sort of get to the end of our of the session with you as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jen. I don't know where her box went. She's somewhere.
Hi, everyone. So I'm going to ask Pam to share her whiteboard, which is another awesome tool that Zoom offers. This is actually another way of, oh, where did the question go?
I don't know. It was here before. Very strange, don't you think?
Yeah. So
Okay,
sometimes you can set up a question ahead of time. Sometimes, you know, there's always limits on technology. This is another way if you want to have people respond in a way that's not speaking, apart from writing in the chat. And also it's a way of having people respond anonymously using a whiteboard. So for this whiteboard, we would like to invite you, if you're on a desktop, you go to View Options at the top, and it gives you a drop down, and you hit Annotate, which will have a box that pops up, and you'll hit Text. And then you can click on the screen and type in whatever answer you would like to give to the question at the top. What is one thing you hope your parent, child, or someone you love knows?
Is someone moving them? Like, how's that happening?
Yes, I am moving them. The next to the T box, there's a select, and as the host, I can move these all around the screen so that if they ended up on top of each other, as you saw they did, which is fine, everyone's answers can be viewed. You just click and drag them. I think you can still click and drag your own if you're not a host, but if as a host, you can click and drag everybody's.
And somebody, it looks like, is using the draw function, which sometimes on a phone it's a little bit difficult to find the text, which is why one of the reasons why we recommend that you use a computer instead of a phone.
So annotate, you said it's fully anonymous. People don't know there's no way of knowing who's doing the
Nope.
writing?
We're the hosts and we have no idea who's writing what. It's completely anonymous. It's a great way to let people get some feelings out that they might not feel comfortable saying in a group.
But there is also the option as a host to choose the option that it shows who's annotating. It's in the drop down menu when you can say disable. There's an option to disable annotation, and then there's an option to show annotators. And what happens is this little arrow pops up for just a minute or a few seconds, so you see who's writing it.
Where is that? You'd know if we didn't, if we were seeing it. Let's put it that way. It is anonymous.
How do you get, I'm not getting into it. What, is there something I need to do to click into this?
To click onto the whiteboard?
Yes.
So did you do the view options and annotate yet?
Oh, got it. Okay, thanks.
Okay, view options, annotate, and then you choose the T for text.
Uh-huh.
And then if you just put your cursor anywhere on the screen, because don't worry, I can move it.
There's a couple of questions in the chat. So the whiteboard function, yep, it's a shared screen. Thanks, Sarah. And sometimes Chromebooks have there's certain Chromebooks that offer some features and don't offer others. So I've heard kind of both sides on what Chromebooks offer. All right. So it looks like
this is in the shared screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. You do have to enable it in your Zoom settings?
To
beforehand?
share screens, yes, to share screens altogether, you have to enable that in Zoom settings.
Right, right. But not this specific annotated thing.
No, as long as you're sharing screen, Whiteboard will appear as one of the choices. And what
Right.
controls the size of the text is to answer that question is it's default to a certain size, and then you'd have to go in and change it, which you can, you actually can do, but it's not so hysterically important. You can see I can fit all these around.
With the format button, which is like the blue format button, you can change color and size of your text.
Right.
All right, so I'm going to invite everybody to find a comfortable seat. You might probably already be in that comfortable seat, and to stop writing on the whiteboard for now. And close your eyes if you feel comfortable doing so. I'm going to lead you through a short meditation, or rest your gaze. And take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Feel your legs against the chair, your feet against the floor. Notice any sounds in the room around you. And think of a time when you felt truly and completely loved by somebody. Let that feeling fill you up with light in the way that we saw the character in the video fill up with light earlier. Starting in the center of your body and radiating outward so that your entire body and the entire room around you is filled with light. Stretch out your arms to allow the light to go further. And when you feel the light cannot spread any further, listen to what your parent, child, and the people you love want you to know. They want you to know how much you love them. They need you to know that they need me time. They're doing the best that they can. The trash is building up. They enjoy your company. They miss you. You're precious. They sometimes need alone time. It's okay if you need alone time. They just want you to make your bed. They know that they can't replace your friends. Things are hard right now, but they're doing their best. Take another deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, and open your eyes. And Pam, would you stop? Yeah, great. Now we can see everybody. So thank you all for joining. And we really loved leading the session for the first time with you. And it was exciting to hear, all the ways that we can keep evolving it in all the ways that we can work together with all of you.
Absolutely. And I just want to end on this one last quote. With full love tanks, people can process conflicts, create a positive emotional climate, and work together, support, and encourage each other. I hope that this is true for all of you about the group of colleagues and educators assembled here today. And I hope that you find ways to find this in whatever house you are currently sheltering in. In a minute or two, you will get a survey, if you haven't already, about this webinar and about what it is you might want to do with it and how to get more help from us. And we are committed to helping you to run this session. So please let us know how we can be of service. Thank you so much.
Thank you all so much.
Emily,
This was
you
great.
mention
Thank you so much.
How much time to budget for this program for the family?
So we configured it, the times are in there to be about an hour. It is a tight hour, I'm going to admit, but it's an hour because I think you could make it an hour and 15 minutes if you think your people will stay on longer, but we figure an hour is pretty much most people's Zoom attention span.
The one piece we didn't do in this group was take that quiz, am I right?
Correct, but we spent time talking about facilitation tips, which you won't be doing with parents.